Hello all, welcome to the third video in the books and review summary series of this channel. Thank you for all the views and the comments that you folks have made in the last two videos. While the intent of the videos was not primarily to generate traffic and more for my learning and understanding, I truly appreciate the kind of response and appreciation that you guys have given me. Now moving to the book that we are going to review today. The title of the book is The Ride of a Lifetime by Robert Iger. Robert Iger is the CEO and chairman of Walt Disney Company. So this book, as the name says, because Walt Disney and the Disney theme parks are very famous for the rides, is more of how Robert Iger's career spanned over the last 30 to 40 years in the company like Walt Disney. Robert Iger began his career in ABC Corp in 1974. ABC Corp is into entertainment business in America. And he took over Disney after a certain point in time in his career. And after he has taken over Disney, he has helped expand the Disney's presence across the globe outside of United States big time. Now the book is a very fast read. It's very intriguing. I finished the book in almost 3 to 4 days, and it's very breezy to read. The book's title says Lessons Learned from the 15 years as a CEO of Walt Disney Company, and hence the author ensures that there is some kind of learning that he attributes across every other chapter in the book. He would use some kind of an anecdote, some kind of a story throughout the chapter in the book. At the end, he would clearly establish the kind of learning that he has had as part of that anecdote. Now the book is broken into two parts. The first portion is about learning, second portion is about leading. Now as Robert Iger grew in his career, which in the early stages of his career, it was all about learning for him. And he gives us a lot of inputs around that, right? He works with a variety of bosses, with a lot of teams, and he grew from a very simplest of roles to what he was at the end of his career, and which means the first portion of his career is full of learnings. Second portion is after he took over a predominantly significant position in Disney, and the kind of challenges he faced in building and growing the teams there. So one of the biggest benefits of reading this book, I would say, is that a lot of learning, a lot of situations that Robert Iger is talking about, you would be able to relate to your career as well, which means you can take the kind of solutions that Robert Iger did in that situation, and he also backs up with a certain rationale as well. So it helps us relate to the situation and take better decisions. That is the biggest learning that I have in reading this book. He starts the book with the 10 basic principles of leadership. I would just list them down quickly before we go into the summary of the book. Optimism, courage, focus, decisiveness, curiosity, fairness, thoughtfulness, authenticity, relentless pursuit of perfection, and integrity. Now, all of these traits are discussed throughout the book, like I said before. Now, he very clearly points out that these traits that he just listed are not something that he knew before he took over these important positions. All of them is something that he has learned in hindsight. And hence, it's very important that we read such books for us to learn from these stalwarts in the industry. Robert Iger has very clearly ensured that throughout the book, he talks about key personalities who has had significant influence in his life and career. The first person is his dad. His family is a very simple family. It's not a very rich family. It's a proper middle class family in that era in the US. His father did not have a very stable job. He moved around jobs, which meant that Robert Iger had to take a lot of responsibility at his very early stage in his career. But Robert very clearly mentions that his dad was one of important role models in his career. All the traits that he has built as a person, a lot of them he attributes to how his dad brought him up. A very clear lesson for all of us between a father and child here. The second person he emphasizes is his boss at ABC Corporation. At ABC Corporation, Robert Iger was a very low level employee. He was just growing in stature in ABC Corp, and his boss was somebody who was looking for relentless perfection. He was a big fan of technology, even in that 70s and 80s era when there was not a lot of technology. But whatever was there, his boss would use to adopt it very, very quickly. He would always say, you should either innovate or die in this business. And because of his perfection mantra, he would also say that no detailing was small. Everything is very, very important. And perfection was a result of getting all the little things correct. And this is something Robert Iger has picked up in his career as well. As he goes to Disney, he tries to inculcate this habit as well very clearly. Now at some point, ABC Corporation is sold to another company called Cap Cities. There are two more CEOs who take over the company, namely Tom and Burke. They don't understand the entertainment business at all. They are pure play business people. They know expenses. They try to cut expenses big time. In a creative industry, how do you do that? There's a tussle between the two. There's a lot of drama which is going on there. But the important point that happens here is that because of the acquisition, a lot of people move out of ABC Corp, and even Robert Iger tries to do that. But his boss holds him back, saying that what kind of progress that he can make, etc., and all of that. Well, Robert Iger is not really convinced. He tries to stay back and continues to work hard, and that pays dividends for him. And he's made the president of the ABC Corporation at some point because of his boss's exit. Now he says that this is the first time in history a person who does not have an entertainment background is made a boss of an entertainment company. Now he was able to achieve that because of he's sticking to ABC Corp in these tough times. The other point he tries to emphasize here is, even though he did not know a lot about the entertainment industry, he would not go and fake anything to his colleagues. He would be very, very frank to them, tell them that he was new to the industry, and try to learn a lot of things from his colleagues, even though they were juniors to him. And that is something that he passes on as an important trait of a leader. Even if you're not sure about what is happening, be candid about it, call it out, and learn from others, and thereby you build up a solid rapport with these people as well. While he was part of while he was made the president of the ABC Corporation, he signed up a lot of new TV series to promote the ratings and reviews for the ABC Corp, but a lot of them tanked actually in the initial days. And that's another thing that he calls out, saying that the innovate or die principle that he learned from his boss, which he's trying to adopt here, was not working out. It failed, but he's very clear, saying if you have chosen to innovate, be ready to face failures as well, because they go hand in hand, and if you're not able to adapt to it, then there is no way you could innovate. Now, and importantly, in such times of failure, you should also stand by your decision and reasoning as well, because we always know success has a lot of parents, while failure is an orphan, right? And he very clearly says, don't pin failures on someone else. If you have made a decision and it failed, stick to it. A lot of times it is such moments where you stick your head up and own the kind of failures is what makes you a better person than you bringing in a lot of success. That's another point that he calls out. Then at some point, Walt Disney enters into the frame. All along, only ABC Corp is only there. Now, Walt Disney's CEO is Michael Eisner. They hire ABC Corp and the Cap Cities company together, and Michael Eisner wants Robert Iger to stay back as part of this deal. So if you see, the whole book is completely filled with a lot of acquisitions. This company acquires that company acquires this, etc. Now in this situation, Walt Disney has acquired these two. But the moment the acquisition happens, Robert Iger has his eyes set on the CEO role of Walt Disney. He's very clear at some point in time he wants to become the head of such a big conglomerate. And there's a tussle between Robert Iger and Michael Eisner, who is the current CEO of Walt Disney, and the battle continues to go on. And he talks about a leadership principle here as well. The tussle between the CEO and the number two is always very, very tricky, which means the CEO should not think himself as somebody who is indispensable. He has to ensure that he grooms a set of people for the next people in a line and help them grow and make them be a part of the decision making that he does, and thereby it becomes a smooth and natural transition for these people also, and not have the kind of tussle that was going on between Michael Eisner and Robert Iger. Now, while all of this was happening, Disney's fortunes weren't going very well. There were a lot of decisions that were made by Michael Eisner which was not working out great for Disney. In fact, they tried to get a partnership with Pixar, which was owned by Steve Jobs at that time, and it breaks at some time, and he has a very bad relationship with Steve Jobs, and he also gets into a tussle with the nephew of Walt Disney, who is an important board member. And all of this gets into one conundrum, and at some point Michael Eisner is being asked to step down from the CEO by all the stakeholders. Now the board tries to find somebody from outside, and they're looking for candidates from outside as well as an internal candidate in Robert Iger as well. But it is not going to be very, very easy for Robert Iger, because he was the next person was available after Michael Eisner. It was not a very straightforward move for him to become the CEO. The interview was very, very grueling. In fact, he was put into very, very tough situations and spots wherein he was questioned, saying that when Michael Eisner was the CEO, Robert Iger was the COO of Walt Disney, and hence he was posed questions saying he was also one of the reasons why the numbers were starting to dwindle down, and why should he be made the CEO of the company. And very clearly, Robert Iger has put forth a solid answer to this question. He says, whatever is in the past, I don't have an option to correct, but I can very certainly vouch for the future. And he put forth a solid vision for Disney for the next few years and presents it to the board, and thereby he sails through this interview. Now, once he becomes a CEO, he ensures that he corrects a lot of things he found wrong immediately. Right? He has a very clear agenda after he became the CEO, starting from he went and patches up with Steve Jobs. Why would you do that? We all know Steve Jobs was a very, very important person at that point in time in the technology industry. And also, with respect to animation industry, Pixar was becoming the epitome of animation success. While Walt Disney was also into animation, if the world looks at it and sees that Pixar and Walt Disney are at opposite ends, it would give a very, very bad impression about Walt Disney animation, and hence he goes and makes amends with Steve Jobs as the first thing. Second thing, he goes and makes a peace with the nephew of Walt Disney as well, brings him back into board, and hence all the irking issues that were there were all solved. Now he can focus purely on whatever was the vision that he wanted to build. What he does immediately after that is he realizes that Walt Disney Animation is not in the strongest position to deliver high quality content, but he clearly knows Pixar was at the epitome of creativity as well as tech talent. So he goes and approaches Steve Jobs for an acquisition. Now imagine, Steve Jobs is the kind of person who takes his value with a lot of pride. Now, why would he get himself acquired by another company? And hence, he thinks a lot about it, Robert Iger, before he goes and approaches Steve Jobs. But somehow that works out, and Pixar gets acquired by Steve Jobs. Now, on the day of the acquisition, please note, Steve Jobs comes and tells Robert Iger that he has been diagnosed with cancer and he has very few years left in him. Now, and he asks him to take a call whether to make this acquisition go through or not, and it is an hour away before the announcement is made. But Robert Iger takes a call to make the acquisition, and Steve Jobs and Robert Iger become lifelong friends. In fact, Steve Jobs becomes a very close aide to Robert Iger in making key decisions throughout his career. Then Walt Disney continues to make succession of acquisitions in Marvel films, in Lucasfilms. Lucasfilms is the one that produced Star Wars. And Marvel acquisition was one of the biggest hits for Walt Disney, because Marvel continues to make some amazing movies over a period in time. They were super duper hits. Now after the acquisition, Walt Disney changes its purview towards technology. They get deep into technology. They realize that at some point in time, with all the change that is happening in the tech world, Walt Disney, if it has to survive, they have to get into the technology domain, digital domain very quickly, and hence they acquire a company in the name of BAMTech, and they get into OTT platforms very quickly. They also get into acquisition of Fox Corporation from Rupert Murdoch, and because of which Hotstar becomes a part of their portfolio in India. Now, if you see clearly, there's a huge empire which is there now with Walt Disney. From where it started in the 1930s, when Walt Disney actually built the company, to where it is today, it has an armory of companies in it, starting from Walt Disney, Pixar, Marvel Films, Lucas Films, and Fox Corporation. It's a behemoth. Now, Robert Iger very clearly does a reflection of what has happened in his career, and he says, from a person who was sitting in a couch and watching all these animation cartoons, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, etc. in his life, to where he has come, it's a significant transition that he has had. Now, he says, when he looks back, a lot of these things fall into a jigsaw puzzle very perfectly, and it might look like there's a clear pattern, but of course it is all a function of being there at the right place at the right point in time, and a lot of luck that has to happen. Even if one of the things did not happen to him at the right point in time, his career would have taken a very different direction, and he could end up in a different place altogether. Now, what are the things that we should learn from this book? There are a lot of things that we spoke about now, but at the end of the book, he gives you a very crisp summary of key things that one should learn and take away from his career. I would like to call out a few things which I thought was very important for me, and I thought it would be useful for you as well. He says, excellence and fairness need not be mutually exclusive. Be empathetic when you are seeking the best from people. Even though you're looking for perfection and the best from the people, don't just look for the quality of the product, look for the people as well. It's a very, very important point. And the second point that he calls out is, don't let ambition get ahead of opportunity. It is important to find a balance between doing the current job, being patient, and looking for opportunities to pitch in and expand and grow at the right point in time. Don't get restless when you have a solid ambition in mind, and let go of what is there in your hand, right? Keep working on it, and you will get the right opportunity at the right point in time, is what he tries to say. Now, this is one of the finest books I've read in recent times. It was a very quick read with a lot of inputs that one could take away and implement in our own careers as well. I would recommend all of us to read this book thoroughly in detail. Thank you for watching this video.